Hello, I am Dr. Hedy Lemar Walls, and I am the Chief Social Responsibility Officer for the YMCA. Today we are presenting an Equity Innovation Lab case study conducted with the City of Hastings in Minnesota titled Advancing Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The Equity Innovation Lab is a human system design process that authentically engages community and cross-sector partners to create innovative solutions for increasing equity and opportunities for their community. With the belief that no single agency or sector can solve the grand challenges that we face today, the lab is designed to invoke innovations across public, private, and/or nonprofit sectors that are addressing disparities using lens of fairness, justice, and equity. With the wise legacy of positive change in communities, we launched this Center of Excellence to learn, practice, and share. We don't claim to have all the answers. Instead, we bring together thought leaders and change agents from across the region to identify best practices, develop future systems, convene individuals, groups, and empower communities for authentic conversation, as well as be a resource for all. In a recent Stanford Social Innovation Review article titled Community Engagement Matters Now More Than Ever, Melanie Burns and Paul Schmitz reported that change happens at the pace people adapt. Data-driven solutions are feasible and sustainable when leaders create and implement those solutions with the active participation of people in the community that they target. Engaging the community requires a continuous process that aims to generate the support necessary for long-term change, which is why we use the human system design process for working with Hastings. Let's now learn more about the City of Hastings experience. Our case study began in November 2016 with a group of community leaders and citizens, including representatives from the city and school district, coming together to dialogue about the state of diversity, equity, and inclusion in Hastings, Minnesota. According to the Minnesota Department of Human Rights statistics from 2010 to 2017, the majority of the population growth, 83%, occurred in the county metro. The racially demographic changes within the general population of the city of Hastings were also changing. A community with a historically low rate of racial diversity, approximately 5% of high school students were students of color compared to 19% of students of color in grade K through 5. This increasing diversity exerted pressure on the community, with some negative editorials in the local newspaper and other incidents that did not support an inclusive community. In response to this, the City of Hastings leaned in, partnering with the Hastings YMCA, the schools, and other community leaders to learn about diversity issues and engage in conversations with a variety of residents to understand personal experiences, concerns, needs, and aspirations for the Hastings community. The ultimate goals they are focusing on are increasing cultural competence, providing trust and safety for all, and bridging community. At this time, I would like to introduce 4 of the City of Hastings leaders that were participants in the process. They will provide reflections on their experiences, including why they chose to get involved with the process, feedback and the process, and the impact of the process on the community. The speakers are Lee Stoffel, Communications for the City of Hastings, Mark Zuzek, Superintendent of District 917, Kristie Barse, President of the Hastings Chamber of Commerce, and Derrick Jaeger, Executive Director of the Hastings YMCA. Mark, talk a little bit about the history of how the work got started with the Hastings community.
Hastings, like so many other communities, is really a suburban, actually, we're actually a second ring suburb from the Twin Cities. And we noticed a number of years ago, about 5 years ago, that the diversity of the kids that are sitting in the classroom was changing dramatically. And I knew that the diversity in the broader community was lagging behind that, but was also changing. And so that, I think, was an early indicator for us. And wouldn't it be great if we could avoid some of the same challenges that we've seen so many other communities get into? The younger the kids were, the greater their diversity, which meant that the middle school and the high school and the broader community needed to get ready for greater diversity. At the same time, I realized that the color of a person's skin, their ethnicity, and their race was not the only marker of diversity. So we needed to develop a pathway for the community to provide equity for all of the important things in the community. And equity, as I see it, is really understanding what the barriers are between where you are, where you want to be, and then eliminating or reducing those barriers.
Derrick, can you tell us why you thought it was important for the Equity Innovation Center from the YMCA to be involved in this process?
I was involved with a group of people in Hastings who were trying to look at how do we make Hastings a more welcoming community to all. And really that was around some of the needs for growth, some of the needs for looking at young families coming into our communities. And as that started to develop, it just became very apparent that what the needs of the community were going to align with what the YMCA was going to be offering through the Equity Innovation Center. We had over 250 people attend the reading of the resolution to really support being a welcoming Hastings. And we knew that we had to do something. We can't just say we're going to do this. We had to do something to back it up. That's why I decided to engage with the YMCA, bring in all of the help that we could do to kind of guide us through the next steps, which is really the tough part of how are we going to do this with our community that makes sense for our community. We knew that it wasn't just a cookie cutter, this is the way we do things. We knew that all communities are different and all communities have different needs. So having the Y come in to do that was a natural choice and a very important part of our success.
Why did you choose to participate in the Hastings Equity Innovation Lab?
It was a personal decision. I really wanted to expand my knowledge and feel that I was doing the inclusive work that we were doing in the community of Hastings properly, and then that really started from an individual perspective. So that was the first reason. And the second reason is I had the support of my board through the Chamber of Commerce. So I currently work as the Chamber of Commerce president, and inclusion is part of our strategic plan. And so they really encouraged me to expand on that learning, especially if I was going to continue to be a committee member for our Thrive in Hastings, which is our diversity, equity, and inclusion group.
I was really, really excited to have this opportunity. Hastings had been working for about a year at that point on our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative. And I think being part of the leadership team, it happened very organically. And after that year, I was starting to really understand the gravity of what we were doing. And I felt a lot of responsibility to continue my own learning journey in order to try and be a better leader in this effort. And so I was very excited to take the opportunity.
Can you talk a little bit about the process itself? How did you see the process being of value for the work that you and the other community members wanted to see happen?
There were many steps along the way in the Equity Innovation Lab process, but what I appreciated most was that no matter where you were in your pathway, no matter where you were in your development, the YMCA staff was ready to take you where you were and help you to reach to that next level. And what was so critical is that they helped us to understand that for every single person, there had to be some conditions of like personal safety, meaning emotional safety. These are tough things for us to understand and to wrestle with.
I think that there were points of it that were really challenging. They challenged what I knew about myself, what I thought about myself. It helped open my eyes to my own knowledge base and where I needed to go.
One of the things that I appreciated most about the process was that the YMCA understood the emotional safety of every person that was involved in the process so that they could learn and grow and still be comfortable deep inside. And at the same time, there was a process to move them forward using the IDI, which really helped us to understand where we were on our own personal journey.
We had a lot of people who were either skeptical or not sure what if they wanted to be involved or what this means and how that might work. So the feedback that I received from multiple people it was just so amazing to hear and see. People were saying, well, that wasn't what I thought, or that wasn't scary at all. I think I'm going to invite somebody to be a part of this. And that's exactly what we want to do. You turn on the TV and you see all the, equity and diversity and all of these words, and people get afraid if they don't know what is happening. So it was just a perfect scenario for us, I believe, to have people come in and say, wow, I'm just learning about myself, and that wasn't scary at all. And I think that really helped us move forward, because people have had some experiences where maybe they said you had to take this mandatory training or you had to do these things, and they might not have researched it or understood it as well as it could be. But to learn at your own pace, to learn and grow with your community, and for people to actually see that and then go tell their friends and neighbors, I think it was amazing for us.
I enjoyed every part of the process. I learned so much. I wish that I could have recorded each session because there was so much to take in. I particularly enjoyed getting to know the people that I was going through the process with because it was such a deep and personal experience. I feel like I have lifelong connections with everybody that went through the classes with me. The instructors were top of the line, incredible instructors.
What really impressed me most about the process was that throughout the entire thing, the YMCA was really clear that there was both the individual side of equity, which means that inside of us, we need to understand what it means to really see the world from everybody else's perspective. And then secondly, it's the institutional and community-wide perspective that we needed to develop. And what was critical in the Equity Innovation Lab process is that we learned that the personal side was prerequisite to the institutional or the community-wide side. The YMCA provided the psycho-emotional safety for all of us as leaders to move forward together. And because of that, there's this odd synergy that happens because throughout the community, all of us know what needs to happen next, and we're all committed to the growth in the same area.
I just feel really close to the cohort that I was with, and I feel like I trust them and we can learn together, we can make mistakes together, we can continue to strive to do better together. And so I really appreciated that part of it. And then also the ending where we worked to learn about the history, it was just so emotional. It was so eye-opening, and I will never forget that. And it changes the way I think about every bit of information I take in now.
What do you see as the impact as you have observed after participating in the lab?
I would say the biggest impact walking away from that is that I feel like my eyes and ears are now open in a way that they weren't before. When I see information about our history, even when I see television shows, even if they're fictional, I really question the information that's coming at me. And I think, wait a minute, there's some cracks in this, and how can I get the correct information, and how can I continue to push forward and seek that out? So it's just made my view of the world completely look different.
I noticed things that I didn't notice before, and that can sometimes be emotional and exhausting, which I think to me tells me that I'm learning each day. I find myself questioning things that I didn't question before. And I find that I feel really confident in the work that our Thrive Committee is doing for the community of Hastings. And I feel that it's important now more than ever.
What looks different about the community now? What changes are you seeing? And is there any positive interactions going on?
I think we're starting to see people just taking note and starting to think a little bit differently. And maybe not everybody has completed their whole journey or come as far as they would want to, but it comes up in every conversation. I'm very involved in the community, whether it's through businesses or partnerships or anything in the community, and people are constantly talking about not only the thrive is what we call it locally, or just the process itself, or learning more about themselves. So it's become not such a scary thing, but just being able to have conversations with people about it has just been really cool. You see it happening through our leadership in the city and the school boards. Our school has hired a diversity coordinator because of this work, and really starting to look at the youth that we're serving in our schools, and that they do have different needs for different kids, and I think that's really cool. We had our last election, school board election, and I think just helping people to get more involved in our community and understand how they might be able to get involved. We had quite a few people run for that, and it was really interesting as they were doing their forums. I think 7 out of the 8 people talked about equity in their opening statements. And these are things that we're continuing to see. The mayor talked about how important a diverse community is and equity is in her State of the City address a few months ago. So we're starting to just hear people talk about this and really take note and understand that it's not a scary thing to talk about, and it's a necessary thing to talk about in our community as we look for growth. So it just becoming more of a conversation topic, and people starting to actually look at things throughout the leadership of our community. You can definitely tell that that's had an impact.
After experiencing the Equity Innovation Lab with my colleagues throughout the community, we've got the perspective community-wide about what the biggest concerns are and what the best possible solutions are. And because of that, we were able to really do 2 big things. One is there is an almost magical synergy that happens because you pull the community together to solve a problem. And from this point forward, I feel like as a community, there's almost no big problem that we can't solve, whether it's housing or access to fresh food or transportation or whatever the problem is. There is no limit to what citizens can do when we unite. So the secret sauce, I think, is making sure that we have people from every level of the organization involved in making sure that we're successful. I feel like because of the work of the Equity and Innovation Lab, we have developed the synergy, we've developed the strength, we've developed the collaborative expertise to move forward together as a community of Hastings. And I cannot thank the YMCA enough. Without that touch of magic, I don't know where we would have been. They had the expertise and they had the credibility to lead us forward to where we need to be next.
As you have heard from the speakers, Hastings as a community has changed. Key community leaders are continuing to have larger ongoing community conversation on how to make Hastings a truly welcoming place for all. In the words of Peter Singay, system change requires the need to triangulate. Getting different people from different points of view who are seeing different parts of the system coming together and collectively start to see something that individually none of them can see. We hope that from this case study, other organizations would take the opportunity to explore ways that they too can be more inclusive, like the City of Hastings has done. This is a journey, and the City of Hastings continues to make great progress.